It is morning huddle time.
A sense of belonging in a company actually increases job performance by 56%.
It's like a lot of times all of that 3D data is there. They've done the work. They've done the engineering. They've done the slopes. They've done all the 3D polylines are already in their file. There's just a huge disconnect between what they do and the builders right now.
113,000 available unfilled construction jobs in this country, 11 million available unfilled jobs overall in this country.
One of the great culture things I see in construction is people just get it done. At the end of the day, we've built 100% of the building. There's no 80-20 rule.
Think of the technology that has been brought into existence in the last 60 years, and you think of the productivity gains that have, say, occurred in agriculture, which is up 1,750%, or manufacturing, which is up 400%, and construction is flat to negative.
This was always supposed to just be a 6-episode mini-series, Stacy. I want to remind you of that.
Good morning. It is morning huddle time. Chad Prinky here as always with co-host, producer, superstar, Stacy Holzinger. Stacy, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. A little slow start, but we finally figured it out.
So yeah, I think back, Stacy, to like our first few episodes and the amount of sweat that I would generate when things weren't going perfectly from a technical standpoint on the front end. And this is how you know you've done 54 episodes. Stacy was like, so should we like send out a message or something? I'm like, that'll be all right.
That was not you back like 30 episodes ago. No way.
Totally. No, I was like, all right, everybody. Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, everything will be fine. It all seems to work out. And it did. And our guest got his tech sorted out because evidently they have the greatest IT team in the world. But no, we'll switch over. We'll be introducing Stjepan here in a minute. But, just in general, Stacy, we're like, coming up on the halfway point of this season and it's still in the summer. I think we're going to have some demand to keep this thing going into the fall. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it'll be great. So what kind of cool projects have you been working up with?
On my end, we're in like the heat of strategic planning retreat season in my world, which is a lot of fun. The go-getters are having their retreats for 2024 starting in like August, rolling through October, November, and then there are some folks that won't do them until December, January, and those are always a crunch. But working on building the bridge from where a company is to where a company's trying to go is so much fun. It's the most fun that I get to have. And then, especially with the clients that we've been working with for 2 years, a year or 2 years, because we're a young business. So I don't have anybody that I've been continuously working with from before that. But where you can kind of see the progress and talk about everything that they've accomplished over the past year. A lot of things to be proud of, a lot of awesome stories and things like that. But that's where we're spending our time right now. I've got a 2-day retreat this week, 2-day retreat next week, 2-day retreat the week after. It's pretty much nonstop, and it's a lot of fun.
And it's usually the executive teams that you're meeting with, or do they get to pull in some of the employees? Or no?
So yeah, that's a really good question. Like usually it's so if we do a 2-day, day one will be the core sort of, I guess, the people who are going to call the shots on the strategic direction of the business. And then day 2, we often do start to bring in, department managers and folks who represent a broader piece of the company's direction, where we kind of present where we think we're going, get feedback, and make alterations, which is really cool to make sure that we incorporate everybody's point of view. So that's what we're up to. Thanks for asking.
And they usually get to plan it at a fun location, right? Or do
usually, yeah. Like we just varying degrees of travel. Sometimes we're driving out to the Eastern Shore of Maryland. That's a pretty common angle. Sometimes we go out to the mountains, in Maryland, and then every now and again you jump on a flight to Bermuda or something. And those are cool too. Those are good. The numbers better be good from the
right year. For those trips. That's awesome.
So I'm going to bring on our guest today, Stjepan Mikulić. Stjepan, did I get it right?
You got it right. You got it right, Chad. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we appreciate you joining us from Copenhagen.
Exactly. And good morning and good afternoon to everybody listening, if they're live or even listening afterwards. Hello to everybody. And before we get started with anything, I just want to say thank you so much for this understanding and for your professionalism. As you said, you're a young business, but I think that your pure professionalism, it just makes it so easy to figure through these hurdles. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
That's very kind of you to say. I was looking at the expression on your face as you were working through your technical issues become more and more serious, and I thought the last thing this awesome guy needs is for me to make him feel worse right now. It's all good. Everything will be just fine. Stacy was like, "What will we do if he doesn't show?" I was like, "We will talk about AI." She was like, "Oh my God, I'm not prepared to do that."
Yeah.
I am confident that we're going to have a really interesting discussion today. Hopeful that we have great questions that come in from our audience. I'm going to jump in and get right to it, Stacy.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, make sure that we have a vibrant LinkedIn discussion live here with that audience, and we'll pull some audience questions at the end.
All right, sounds good.
See you in a bit.
See ya.
All right. So I think the first things first, it would be helpful if you gave us some background on you. Who are you? What do you do? And maybe as it relates to artificial intelligence, where are you in that journey? How did you get involved, and all that type of stuff? So big picture, take a few minutes and help us understand context for who you are.
Sure. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I haven't written my last name here, but even if I had, I bet it would be as hard as to pronounce as my
It's
first name.
Mikulić.
It's Mikulić. Yeah, exactly. And I guess for people who want to connect either now or later on, it is possible to probably see it through LinkedIn. I guess the link would work. But in any case, for my name is Stjepan, which Chad pronounced so nicely. But for those of you who have trouble with that, you can just say Stefan or a version of that. It's completely fine. As you can see, I'm here in Copenhagen. I work at Bjarke Ingels Group, or BIG, which is a quite well-known architectural company in the world. And I'm in our current office in Copenhagen with some nice models behind me, as you can see. And we are moving to a new office soon. So this is like, I guess, a really good point to have this podcast, especially with the video on, so you can kind of remember, or I can remember later on how it looked like. But regarding AI and how it all got started, so I work here as a project BIM lead. So you can say that BIM and data as a whole and like design technology as a whole is very, very connected with AI. Or at least because most of these AI models are based on data. So my personal journey into that, thank you so much for sharing. But yeah, my personal journey into AI started like not so long ago. Actually, it started probably late last year with the advent of all these new tools, meaning the ChatGPT and Midjourney craze that happened all around. And I just I don't know that much in detail about the broader world, but I knew that I have some really cool insights for the AEC, and I wanted to create I wanted to sort through the noise because my LinkedIn was bombarded by all these news, all these tools showcasing how your life is going to change, your work is going to change, whatnot. And I wanted to sort through the noise and see what is actually worthwhile and what is actually going to make a big difference. Fast forwarding a few months, I already have like some you can say a following or like some work on my LinkedIn, which I guess is what you also recognized and invited me here. So yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah, we were doing so funny enough, we were doing just the same and trying to cut through the noise on the people who were talking about AI and looking for really, to be candid, people who don't have a horse in the race financially, who aren't who aren't trying to push a specific tool or a specific concept, too hard. Particularly, not there's anything wrong with that, but we really just wanted to find an educational guest, somebody who could come on and truly just give us the lay of the land. And so I'm excited to have you here because I think you went on a similar journey for your own reasons of like, I want to help people to cut through the noise, and you do have a fantastic LinkedIn following, and
Thank you.
yeah, you've done a wonderful job, and I think been able to bring a lot of order to the chaos. So I'm gonna dive in there, and I want to start off with the obligatory, like what are your favorite tools? What are the tools that you
Uh,
think, from an artificial intelligence standpoint, are have the most promise, and maybe the most immediate impact in the industry?
that's a really good question, Chad. I mean, I was like, it's hard to say. So maybe like I want to take a bit of a step back, because then I can explain my answer a bit more clearly.
Mhm.
Because what I see happening right now in the industry is that, I mean, based on my work, all of this research, I made an open Notion page for those that maybe aren't familiar with it. But it's an open Notion page that lists more than 350 AI tools and resources that anybody can access at any point. It's open out there on the internet, so you can find it through my profile. It's probably shared, and so on. So I mean, if you choose, if you ask me to choose a single tool out of 350, it would be very unfair to most of them.
Are these 350 that you like, or are these just 350?
So let's put it like this. I started like these are just 350. Um,
Very good.
yeah, because if I went after what I like, I would probably have a much more narrow list. And
Yeah.
I can also explain why. The thing is that a lot of these tools are based on some other tools. A lot of these tools have just gotten, okay, there's an AI craze, we can make quick bucks, so let's just go ahead and do it. So I also try to be skeptical about this, even though people maybe like ourselves that can get that are kind of tech people that are very interested in what's going on, we can maybe get overhyped about something
Yeah.
that doesn't stick. So I always try to have this kind of good doses of skepticism when it involved, and see what is actually worth it. So coming back to our initial question about what I would maybe choose as my favorite one, I don't necessarily have a favorite one, but I think that there are a few ones that are very well playing the game right now. Because what's happening right now, you have either AI assistant tools, you have AI master builder tools, and then you have kind of a bit of both that are 1 foot in BIM, in current processes, and 1 foot in AI. And if I would choose my favorites at current stage, I would go for this last part, meaning that these that have 1 foot in BIM and 1 foot in AI, just because of how easy they can get started, like how you can easily start working with them and incorporate them into your business processes.
That's great. So, give us an example of that in action, and I'm going to actually want to, in a moment after you describe that, I'm going to want you to step back and talk about the whole picture. Like,
Mhm.
what are the master builder tools? What, just
Uh,
help us to understand the differences between each of these. But walk us through an example of 1 foot in BIM, 1 foot in AI, and how that plays out in
mhm.
reality.
Yeah. And before I say anything, I'm going to answer your questions. But before I say anything, I just want to say that I'm not sponsored by any tool. So this is
Right.
all independent thought. So it's all my own research, my own opinion. I could be wrong. And also, just for legal reasons, I'm not representing big at this moment. So I'm saying this for my own kind of, from my own perspective. It's not necessarily our strategy, but just to say that out there, yeah, to make it clear.
That's
Um,
a smart thing to do. I
yeah,
respect that.
thank you. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to, we can start with those that are playing 1 foot in BIM or 1 foot in current processes or 1 foot in the future. First thing that comes to mind is Adobe Firefly. This
Okay.
is an AI tool that is already integrated within Adobe software, namely Photoshop. I also believe, I'm not sure, InDesign, but if not, they're probably going to do that. But it's an AI tool that you can basically put a text prompt, what it would do to your image that you're working on, and then it just changes it according to that. So it's part of an image generation tool like Midjourney that we all have probably heard about, but it's very integrated. So that's what I mean when I say tools that are half here, half there, because of they're so easy to get to and work with. Another kind of, you can say, set of tools are probably Evolve Labs. That's a company. Veras, or maybe even Glyph. Even though I'm not sure about the specific of some of these tools that they have. But if we take Veras as an example, or Veras, I guess it would be pronounced correctly. But this is a tool.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're
No,
in
no,
the
no.
States.
I know that when I usually listen to podcasts and then these names, you always can they make it more clear? So that's why I repeat some names a few times. I hope
That's
it's not, yeah,
not at all. It's
too,
great. Keep
yeah.
going.
Okay. So anyway, I wanted to talk about this tool because like they integrate with our current Revit models. So I mean Revit, which is used by majority of our industry, right?
Yep.
So they integrate with current Revit models, and they offer some really amazing renderings that you can use with AI in seconds. You can get it.
So
So this
what
is
happens? Give me the pretend like I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, right?
okay.
And describe it at that sort of core level. I've got a Revit model, which will
hmm
take a short version of that is this is a 3D model that shows every aspect of the building layer by layer.
hmm
And it is really, I don't know if it's the tool, but certainly, like you said, one of the most recognizable tools for BIM.
hmm
So let's start there. How does how does AI plug into that in layman's terms? What
In
happens?
layman's terms, so they, do it mean Vera specifically, or
Yeah,
do you
sure.
mean okay, because I also want to say I am doing probably a nice favor to Evolve Lab and for like talking about, but it's a really good software, so I don't mind. But it's also probably maybe unfair to some of the tools that are also integrated that we just haven't mentioned. But yeah, just to be politically correct. But how it works is basically that you make a perspective or like a camera image of your model, or you make a facade, but it's basically still image then converts through an AI engine into something that you can choose from if it's in autumn or if it's in summertime or whatever it is, like this AI image backgrounds basically with nice shading, nice renders, and so on. So
Nice.
this
So
is as far as
it takes something, if I can take it and
sure.
make sure I understand it. It takes something
Uh,
that is highly technical and
mhm,
used for the for the purpose of specification design and demonstrating what specifically what size and models and or I'm sorry equipment and things like that are in the building,
mhm.
and it says hey, we can turn this into something that's beautiful and can be used as a rendering as well. So here you're doing all your hard technical work, and we're going to make it also look beautiful for you.
Exactly, exactly. You
Nice.
nailed it. You nailed it.
Excellent.
I
No,
would also
you described it well, so that's good. But I just want to make sure I'm following, man.
you're following.
It's a
You're
lot.
following.
It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it is a lot. It is a lot, and I know that maybe I can also mention this because we did open the topic of like uh, how do you say layout of these all of these tools. How does the geography look like? Meaning the tools that I mentioned, they're either assistant tools, master builder, or this one foot in one.
Yeah,
So
let's talk about that.
yeah, let me just explain that. I mean, this is my understanding of how the things look. So I would say that assistant tools are tools that connect to your current processes and just make it either faster, safer, cheaper, or in a better way that you haven't imagined. Um, so this can mean, for example, your design iteration, where you just want to have a bunch of designs. This is just what we talked about, having an image generation tool that can quickly create a bunch of designs based on some text prompt that you put in. These are tools like DALL-E 2 or Midjourney, mostly used currently. So these are assistant tools, I call them. They can also be tools like, for example, Sparkle. I think it's Sparkle with a K. Um, and KEL, yeah, Sparkle. For example, that tool you can chat with your data basically. So it
Mm,
does take the BIM model, but you can basically ask it, okay, how many columns do I have on third floor?
yeah,
And then it gives
exactly.
you,
That's
you
awesome.
can, Yeah. Because what is happening right now is a boom in large language models in
Yeah.
AI, so meaning ChatGPT and so on, but they are not still super familiar to work with BIM data, which is
Yep.
basically tied to geometry.
Yep.
So Sparkle is one of the tools that is
So
kind of
you're
working on both
so
fronts.
getting geometry turned into words is
Exactly.
that's the AI, and then what that enables someone to do is save a whole bunch of time counting and eliminating human error counting, and instead saying how many columns are on the third floor. Okay, 6 columns, and what's the average width of these columns,
Mm.
right? Or are they all
Yeah.
the same width?
Mhm.
Is a really simple way of identifying that, or the
Yeah,
same.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, but
Awesome.
let me come back for a second because I want to be fair to all of the developers of all the other tools, but also to people if they're listening and if they're working either in real estate or in construction, because there are tools for basically any sphere you can imagine. There are most likely tools for this.
Yep.
So coming back to the assistant tools, I explained this, and the second thing that I would mention are the master builder tools. These tools are basically an all-in-one where you just put kind of a text prompt, or you put maybe a video of something, and then that turns into a BIM model.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. And lastly are the tools that are kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or playing on both fields simultaneously. Better said.
So
But
are you literally telling me that, like, with these master builder tools, theoretically, I could say, design me a 65,000 square foot corporate office complex with 4 stories, combination of steel and concrete, lots of glass glazing, like all that kind of stuff, and
mhm,
it'll spit out a BIM model that matches what I just described.
exactly. Just take a
Wow.
look at Hypar. Take a look at Hypar. Take a look at Swap. Those are kind of maybe the most prime tools in this. What I would call maybe master builder or on that way. So there are many possibilities out there. I do need to say this, that currently, maybe people listening are just gonna be I don't say afraid, but like, what am I gonna do with my job? It's gonna change the industry. I
Right.
have no doubt it's gonna change the industry.
Yep.
But I do need to say that 90% of the tools out there right now are these assistant tools. So they fall in the first category. And then maybe 10% are these, or maybe even less because of these other tools that are kind of playing both fields. But then the rest is basically master builder. So there's not many of them. They're mostly very early in their design or development stages, but there are out there. Yeah.
That's awesome. I I'll use this as a quick moment to get on a soapbox that I love to stand on for less than 20 seconds. Time me. Start now. I think progress is essential, and people who fear progress will be eaten alive by said progress.
Mhm.
And people who embrace progress will find ways to use progress to actually push them further. And I think overall the market thrives as we find ways to do things more efficiently, different, smarter, better. And just because certain things have diminished the importance of your role today doesn't mean you're not going to have a job. It means that your job gets to be different and potentially maybe better than it was in the past. So there's my soapbox regarding
No,
most things in progress. Though AI does have some interesting ethical stuff going on that is regarding copyright infringement and that adds a layer of stuff that I wouldn't categorize as progress as much as I would categorize as ripping off. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
that notwithstanding, so anyway, all right, that was a really helpful rundown of the landscape in terms of the different types of tools
Yeah.
that are going on out there. A lot of our audience are contractors, so I know
Mhm.
that you operate in the design and in the design community. Are you coming across any AI tech that contractors you believe should begin familiarizing themselves with for the sake of their businesses?
Mhm. I do. So I would say like this. So first of all, I made a post actually a few weeks ago that for specifics of some of these tools, because I called them AI tools for construction. So meaning the contractors listening to it, you can probably scroll on my LinkedIn and find this post and showcasing some tools. But just to say it in general, how most of these tools work, they can help you make a safer construction site. They can help you save some resources on time, and they can just make it much more. They can make your work much more quality, like of higher quality, by checking some of the collisions that you, for example, didn't check. So I
When
would
you
say that
when you say collisions, you mean coordination
collisions.
issues.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
coordination issues. Yeah, because usually, like how it works is that you can check and then, but you have a human behind checking and going through and
Yep.
thinking, ah, is this important? This is not important, and so on. But you do have some AI tools that they can check this automatically, go through the whole building, and see if there are like major issues, if they can fix it immediately or not. Um, so I would say that in general, when it comes to construction part of that, um, there are many tools that can check the BIM model against the as-built data. For example, Immerso, I think this is one of the. It's called iMerso. Um, it's one of the big tools there. But there are also tools that use sensors or drones that can then turn for example, a point cloud into a BIM model, or they can how do you call it? Work with sensors to give you more qualitative data back in the BIM model. So it's kind of back and forth, BIM and construction.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes total sense. And I think one of the opportunities how should I put this? If we're going to capitalize on the opportunities presented by the broad embrace of BIM and the introduction of artificial intelligence as an assistant tool or more in the BIM environment, is the necessity of human communication to make sure that we capitalize on that information and we do something with it.
Mm.
And I think that's where the contractor comes in. I think the contractor, where the contractor has to show up, is in identifying what you have designed there doesn't have coordination issues, but it actually can't be built that way. And let me tell you why. And this is the material that you're actually gonna have to use in that environment. And I know that from personal experience. And here's this and that. And so I think all of this meshes really nicely with alternative and more progressive delivery methods like design build and IPD delivery methods and things like that, to get the most out of what technology is feeding into our business. What's your thought on all that?
So I would say like this, that I think that the biggest change that's gonna like that AI tools currently have are in these phases of design and design technology. So basically design all up to construction.
Yep.
So if there's a contractor out there maybe thinking, it's going to make my concrete cheaper, it probably won't make it cheaper as of now. At least to my knowledge. But if it's going to make you save a lot of time on BIM resources and like communicating, as exactly what you mentioned, communication of data between design and construction, definitely. I think there are some very promising tools out there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about takeoffs, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
For a contractor, how many hours and hours are spent doing takeoffs that we could give AI a pretty complex go find me these things.
Yeah.
But that would
if I can just, sorry for jumping in, but this is you opened I would say a bit of a pain point for me, because I work with BIM here, and for years now in the industry, it's like we always do such detailed BIM models, and then what happens is that we either turn it back into Excel or AutoCAD, and then people are like, yeah, let me just see, this is a line times this much, and I'm like, man, you have it all there.
It's
just
sitting right there.
Exactly.
But we use the tools we know what to do with. We don't know how to do something with the tool. And so again, that's where I think maybe there are some AI tools that can come in to help to bridge that gap and make the BIM model more functional for the average contractor, for the typical contractor.
Functional and usable, like you can use it better, meaning that you have the data there, so you just have maybe a tool that makes it easier for you to communicate with that data.
Yep, I love it. That's great. All right, we started a little late, so we're not super over on time, but we are a little over on the normal sort of Q&A period. I'm going to bring Stacy in. Stacy, what do we have? What kind of questions do you want to channel into Stjepan?
Yeah, I have a quick question on the example that you gave. So you were saying how some of the software you can tell it to put materials like steel, concrete, and then it shoots out like a commercial building. I know I use AI in the writing world for copywriting. So in the construction world, when it's shooting out this model, is it a really rough draft? Like you have to go in there and actually edit it to make sure that there's no clash detections. Like it's just super in the rough phases. So you're saving a lot of time, but you're still going in there and making all those tweaks to make sure it meets the specs and all that. Is that how that?
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
You're right. You're completely right. And the long answer is I do believe that these tools that are like you say master builder, that you can just put in a bunch of variables that shoots out the building, are still very early. They're like, so that I don't want to scare people off, but I like, they're still very early, and they're focusing maybe on some of the simplest examples of buildings, or just maybe a cube or a rectangle, basically, whereas I actually had a talk with a bunch of my colleagues here that for a geometry, maybe like something here that you can see on the screen with like a bunch of levels, curves, and whatnot. There are still not AI tools that can cover such buildings, such architecture.
Yep.
So, yeah.
One. I'm sorry, Stacy. Real quick. One question that I saw come in earlier that I want to make sure we get kind of channeled out. It's really, really, I think, close to home for a lot of design folks who may be part of our audience. Some of the tools out there are cutting the need of the junior designer. How will junior designers become senior designers if they don't have this kind of proving ground of the basics that AI now is doing for us? Will that in some way slow progress? How does that happen? And of course, this is like a big scary question. You might say, I pass. But it's a really interesting one. Jumped out to me.
Yeah, so I would say that, I mean, how to ensure that we still have the quality buildings and not like skip this role completely. I would say that we're still good for a few years. The reason why I say that is that any AI tool that you might use, or most of them, you would need to check the results that you get. So they are still not, there needs to be a human check.
Yeah.
It's the same as you're driving your self-driving car right now. It still asks you to keep your hands on the wheel,
right?
Just in case. So, I mean, I don't have a clear answer. I mean, if I had a clear answer, probably like the whole industry would be like, okay, fine, we're going to listen to Stjepan, But I mean, I do think that the technical knowledge, the technical, like fundamental knowledge that you get usually in university and then through working as a junior designer, as you said, will get even more important in the future. So, not to rush from the basics. But then on the other hand, if you look at the IT industry, which in terms of technology is quite further away than the AEC sphere, like how did they solve the need of a junior programmer? You still have junior programmers; they just pick up where the old junior programmers left. So meaning maybe they don't know how to make a program from scratch, but they do know how to work with the basics. So there's still going to be a need for that. And I don't think that at least in the next 5 or maybe even 10, but at least 5 years, there's not going to be like a big switch. Okay, all junior designers go away.
I think it highlights, to my mind, it highlights the extent to which organizations are over reliant on the job training. And with this thought that like the way to go from a junior person to a senior person is specifically through on the job experience. I think a part of what occurs to me is the importance of comprehensive training and training programs to give people experience in a controlled environment that maybe they're not getting as much in their on quote unquote on the job environment, but that can be in a lot of ways more effective because it's deep work. It's very targeted, specific work to help people to get better at very specific targeted things, as opposed to what your current role as a junior is, maybe 80% admin and 20% deep work. So
Yeah.
anyway, just something something else to counterbalance that. Stacy, what other questions do we have? I know they keep rolling in.
Yeah. So Scott Volser, any thoughts on open space using for progress photos as built?
Using for progress and as built.
Using open space for progress photos and as builts.
Now, I mean, if there's a specific open space, I would maybe a clarification of what is meant by open space. Is it meant by a tool that's called open space?
Yeah,
or
my
open
my
space?
bet is it's a tool. It's capitalized O and S, right? So
Yeah.
that's my bet, is that there's open space AI or something like that.
I mean,
It's
I can
reality
give the
capture and construction site capture. I'm checking it out actually right now. It's so the answer is it's not something that Stjepan's familiar with.
Or maybe I need to be I need to be fair here. Like you know how it is. Like if you ask me what I had for lunch yesterday, I would probably hardly remember. It's the same when you go through 350 tools. Like
Right.
if there's one specific one, okay, just to remember,
Totally.
So yeah, even though I had a bit of preparation, I went through my material just to refresh some things. I do like to take like more of a general role, speaking about like how things are, because I still think that there's a lot of if I focus too much energy on one single tool, and this may be a good advice for some of the people just getting into this. If you focus too much energy on a single tool that maybe not be there in 3 months time or 6 months time, then you kind of wasted this energy. I'm not talking about open spaces specifically here, but just in general. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I saw a comment come in from Marcus, so it looks like he has some experience with open space. So hopefully you and Scott can connect there on that.
Okay.
We also had another question from Pritnam. I want to know if there's any AI tools to suggest mechanical system designs needed as per space and the space entities we have provided in Revit.
As far as my memory serves me, there's actually not that many tools for MEP design. The one tool that really pops out as maybe one of these master builder, or at least there, is Augmenta. They have also like a really good team behind them, and they have like an electrical design based on your building. There, they want to have like a automated building design basically, but they have like a building you can have electricity ways put in based on your use space. But one thing that I also want to mention, I know our main topic is AI, but if it's mainly for Revit, to answer Pritam here, I would maybe suggest looking into MagicCAD. I don't know if your guys are familiar with this, but I do know that maybe sometimes, even though we say AI, we think this is going to change. There are a bunch of other tools that also are popping out that are not necessarily AI based yet, but they can help you in many automated ways. So this is why I'm mentioning MagicCAD here.
Awesome.
Okay. Let's get to this last question. Are there any AI tools when working with point cloud systems from PJ?
Oh yeah, definitely a bunch, and I think this is one of the spheres that I'm most kind of excited about. I think one tool that pops into my mind is Orivus, or AUR, I guess. I mean, what I would do, I would open this Notion page. I would just put point cloud, because what I did make sure for all of these tools to have a description, and then you can search for point cloud, and it's going to give you probably like 6, 7, maybe even 15 tools that work with point clouds. So when working with point clouds, you have options of like, it depends how it works, but you have options of scanning your building site and then it can tell you, okay, this is what it's coming, so you can expect some issues, or you can see how it's going to be. You have options of turning video into BIM, as I mentioned earlier. You have options of like just filming this point cloud based on images, based on drone data, based on videos, and turning this into an easier point cloud for you. So there's a lot. I mean, a lot. There are a few that are very impactful, I would say.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Good. Stacy, anything else?
No, we could go on and on about this topic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we
We'll
didn't
have
even
to
get.
have you back again in like, I don't know, 6 months to a year to see, the developments of these softwares and where they're headed. And, it just happens so quickly. So many changes.
Totally agree. Yeah.
I would just mention one thing before we close out. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation, and I'm more than up for doing this again. Hopefully, without the technical issues that we had for the first few
Kinda
minutes.
Right.
Tricks happen, Yeah. But I do want to mention that I have been getting so much positive feedback on LinkedIn, including from you guys, but also from many others that have been reaching out and wanting to hear more about this. So if there's anyone, individual or company, that would like to hear more, I am open for collaboration, meaning just reach out. We can probably arrange something either for your internal purposes or just as an interest to share some experience. Because my main premise here is that the more we share, the more we're open about this, the more we're going to learn from each other and go through this big change together.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. That's extremely kind of you, and it does beg one. I'm sorry, I have to ask this one last question, just because it fascinates me when people get on these journeys like you've been on of providing just massive amounts of free value to the people around you. Aside from just being like a wonderful human being, what are your goals? What are some of the things that you're trying to personally accomplish?
Oh man! So I'll go maybe a step back before I answer this. I'll try to be short. So I started doing all this because I felt a calling for this. It might sound funny, but I really did. Like it would happen last year. I thought I should do something. I should share all of this knowledge that because sharing is caring, and like it's just been overwhelmingly positive. What's been happening after I started doing this? Of course, not every post hits the most amazing, but it's also like it depends what you want to do. So I do have you can say a plan for all of this, but I do also let some things. I also always leave a bit of space for things that pop in and can happen and can change your course. Things change. So in short, I do have I mean, just because of all this knowledge is kind of, you can see that people value it, and I feel that I'm one guy and it's kind of hard to scale it. I will try to do something to scale it, maybe in like a course of a sort, or something, so maybe people can learn more about this and be ready for this big change that I said. So if I had an advice for anybody who is starting and maybe thinking, and they maybe like thinking about their job, I would say like look at the tools that are closest to you and look at your edge and how you can contribute to the industry, because I do think that the industry needs change, and the change happens with people first.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well said. All right. Thank you. Well, we really appreciate you joining us, sharing your knowledge, and agreed. A year from now, this landscape is going to have changed dramatically. I love that about the emerging technology sphere, and we'll definitely have you back on for an update. And we'll be seeing your new office in the background simultaneously.
Yeah, definitely. And guys, listen, if you ever come to Copenhagen, I mean, when you come to Copenhagen, please do reach out. I would like to show you about around the office and tell you a bit more about the projects and what we do. So, yeah, I
I would
think that's
love
also
to.
very interesting.
It's been a long time, but I could use a repeat trip. It's I do love Copenhagen. It's a beautiful, beautiful city.
Yeah, it's an amazing city, and it also changed in the last 10 years with all the architectural wonders.
Oh
Like
my God.
it's very
Yeah.
very nice.
Really?
So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've only seen online, but I've got to come back and check it out. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping here to wrap things up. So first, next week's show, we've got episode number 55. We're having Dave Rosenbluth join us to talk about PPE design for women, which is a topic that we've been learning more about, you and I. Well, I have. You've probably known all about it for a long time, but I've been learning about through our work with past guests, and I look forward to having Dave on to walk us through what he's doing and why and the
And
impact he's making.
there's going to be a 20% code. So off. If you watch the episode, he'll give you the code. So it's worth a listen, because if you have any female employees that are in the field, he has tons of different things he's going to go over, and you can get a discount. So definitely tune in for that.
Sweet. All right, good. And then, as always, email us to be added to our weekly mailing list. StacyH@steeltocom.com. Help us to keep you informed on every show and provide show notes like we'd have today from Stjepan, with a link to his Notion page and to his personal page. All the research that he's doing, and do make sure that you're following him on LinkedIn. It'll be a very worthwhile thing to do. So I think that does it for us. Stacy, anything else I'm missing?
Nope, we're good to go for next week.
All right, awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right,
We'll see you next week.
Thanks. See ya.